we're toppling a Chinese dragon in 26,000 dominoes. Here's how we built it. What's up, Domino community, and welcome to another in-depth behind the scenes on how we built these projects at World Domino Collective 2024. Now, this event was run by the Dutch Domino team, and part of this project was a giant Chinese dragon in the Asian ambience section. Now, this was a massive field of 26,000 dominoes that was designed by Wasilia from W Domino. And what's interesting about this project is that it's a combination of a traditional field that's like built on a grid with a template and a free-handed field that is totally built by hand. Now, this is the original image, and from here, Wasilia could use that as a baseline to then convert it into a pixel art domino field. The dragon is made up of a few different segments. We have the head, the body, the tail, and 4 claws. Now, after a lot of research on the colors and the design of the dragon, Wasilia came up with an amazing field plan, and it looks amazing because there's so many different colors and sections to the build. Once the plan was made, we generated a protocol which then gives us exact directions on how to build each row in the field. We also have these really detailed spreadsheets of the exact color count for each section. And not only does this include the colors for the dragon, but it also includes all of the in-between dominoes that are used to connect each section. And sometimes we used clear dominoes for that, other times we used the color of the dragon, but every single domino in the plan needed to be accounted for just to make sure we had enough pieces for the setup. It's really important when we're doing large events like this to make incredibly detailed plans, because the builders that are setting it up might not know exactly how the designer is actually thinking. So having it all written out with exact directions is really helpful. The first thing that we built was the head of the dragon. So we'll look at the plan, another person will read out the colors, gather the colors in the right order, in the right quantities, and then that makes it super easy to then just put the dominoes in the template and set it up according to the design. After that, we started building the body of the dragon, and this was actually all hand set. Even though we had a full field plan, we couldn't use a template because the body of the dragon was going to turn. So we had to be a lot more careful because we were setting it up by hand. And one thing we did to minimize fails was adding a little gap in between each row, just in case if one row fell, it wouldn't knock down another one next to it. One thing you have to keep in mind when you're making a curved field is that the more dominoes you place in each row, the wider the spacing will become because it's curved. Because of that, we made sure that the inner part of the curve was set up pretty close together so that by the time we got to the outer edge of the curve, the dominoes wouldn't be too far apart. That's something we had to keep in mind though, because unlike a normal field where everything is lined up on a grid, this curved field wasn't as straightforward. But luckily, all went well. It was a pretty relaxing build, honestly. The body was just made up of a repeating pattern, so we just gathered the stacks of dominoes and set up a domino line. So as the body of the dragon was being built, I was tasked with building the fins. The way that these fins are built is actually really interesting because the right side is completely different than the way the left side is built. On the right side, all of the black dominoes are in a standard domino line that very clearly splits off from the main maroon line underneath it. On the left side though, all of the dominoes are rotated, so it falls in a different direction. And the reason I did this is because I wanted to make sure that the fins would be 100% reliable. By creating a standard split on the right side, I knew this had no chance of failure. And I also think it looks kind of cool having the left side topple out to the left while the right side topples up towards the top. And this is so that if something topples by accident, it's not going to trigger another section next to it. And speaking of accidental topples, I do unfortunately have a story. So backstory, I gave my phone to Marco, who was building this tree right next to the dragon, and out of nowhere, the fins started toppling. I just knocked over a good portion of the fins here. And I was over here, I placed a domino, and as I pulled my hand back, I think my finger accidentally tipped it, and it toppled all of these, but luckily I left a gap here, so that's all safe. This was totally unexpected. You don't even have time to process what's happening when it's toppling. I don't even know what happened. It was so fast. This was really unfortunate because I built quite a good portion of the fins and I was building in a really tight space. So this is going to be a little challenging to rebuild because there's not a lot of room to move and there's so many dominoes standing up next to me. But I guess, you know, as the short builder, this is kind of my thing where I fit into small spaces and repair domino stuff. So yep, I just went in and set up the dominoes and luckily it all went well. After that, we started building the 4 claws and this was pretty easy because they were just 4 really small fields. Now these were shaped fields so they don't have any background and they're connected using these in-between dominoes inside. The tail was also built using a template and we used clear dominoes to connect each section to another. But overall, the dragon was looking incredible. I really love the way that this project is designed. I really think there's a lot of opportunity in combining different types of fields together to make much larger projects on its own. Now, if there was one thing that we could have done to maybe improve the design, it would have been cool to have the body and the head and the tail all connected in one fluid field. But because of the way these fields are built in the toppling direction, we had to separate the tail from the body from the head. The final step was just making the field starter and all of the connecting lines, and at the end, this 26,000 piece Chinese dragon was absolutely beautiful. Wasilia did a lot of research behind this design and chose the colors very particularly. So for example, the snake-like body is made of golden scales, which represents wealth and prosperity. The dragon's red mouth symbolizes power and strength, and the green mane symbolizes its connection to life and nature. Also, in one of the claws, you'll see that the dragon is holding an orb, which is a symbol of good luck, power, and wisdom. Another cool thing, which is totally coincidental, but last year was actually the year of the dragon, so this was so fitting to be able to build this in the setup. Now before we topple this, I want to pose a question to all of you. What is something that you've learned or thought was interesting from this build now that you've seen how it was built? Let us know down below in the comments. Make sure to check out the full topple on Dutch Domino Team's channel. You can watch it right over here. But now, let's topple the dragon field and let's see if it works. Huge thank you to Dutch Domino Team for having me and organizing this event. Make sure to subscribe to their channel, and I also want to give a shout out to our featured community member, Henry's Hectic World, who's been making some awesome domino videos recently. Happy Lunar New Year in advance to everyone who celebrates, and as always, I'm Lily Hevish, and keep on building.
Wow.